me, who are you?
I'm Leana Fox. I'm 24 years old. I was born in Northern California. Very, very small town, population like 200. I lived half my life between Northern California and Southern California in the desert, namely Joshua Tree. I'm, Joshua Tree, yeah, I love Joshua Tree. It's like my spiritual center. That's what I call it. Because at the end of the day, your home is where you lay your head. And even though there's a lot of things there that I love, it's not home. So the past 5-6 years, I had a rough time, I guess you could say. I've been clean off of heroin for 2 years, cold turkey. Did it myself, all by myself.
Off of what?
Heroin.
Really?
Yeah, it's a crazy thing. I was on it for 4 years, and it destroyed my life, my marriage, and I got to a point where I was like, well, if none of this even made me happy, and I quit for myself. I didn't quit for anyone else, and I said, I want to continue what I started when I got out of college, and that's continue seeing everything that I can and trying to make people happier about themselves and their lives. And so the past 2 years, I traveled around from Joshua Tree up to LA, Atascadero, and then back down and over to Vegas and Utah for a little while, which was really exciting. And then my father passed away in December of last year, which was kind of rough because he was everything left, and everything that I had left was him. And I knew it was coming. I'd been taking care of him for 6 years. He had hepatitis C and stuff like that from drug use for his entire life, and it wasted him away. And he continued doing it even amidst interferon treatments and all that stuff. And it was starting to make me really angry. The last thing I had said to him was, "It's becoming very hard to even love you, let alone like you."
And why was that?
Because his actions were deleterious. He was dying from using the drug and was on extreme painkillers. He'd come down off of those and he would start using his drug of choice again.
Well, which was that? Yeah.
Methamphetamine. He was an IV methamphetamine user. And I mean, I've done it once or twice, but to throw away all the things he threw away for that. And I mean, it's the question of age as old as time, why do drug addicts do what they do? But it just engulfed my life, and I started developing anxiety and depression, and I still have those things. I also have post-traumatic stress from being kidnapped, which hey, it wasn't that bad. A lot of women who get kidnapped have it a lot worse. But with anxiety and depression and PTSD, it just accumulates, and I was wearing myself ragged, and my father was just adding on to it. And I was, I didn't have that many responsibilities. I really didn't. There was no reason why I should have been as stressed and as nerve-wrecked as I was, other than I worried about others too much, and my father just pushed it over the line. And I remember the day that I told him that, he was in this he was just sleeping, but he was awake and walking around the house, and it was the weirdest thing because he didn't speak Spanish, but he was speaking Spanish in his sleep, and it, and then I'd find him with a needle in his arm, and that's when I told him what I told him, that it was becoming difficult to love him, let alone like him. And he went to the hospital for blood work, like the normal routine, and he had a heart attack, and 12 hours later I saw him in an ICU bed. And I almost didn't regret saying it. Saying that it was becoming difficult to even love him, let alone like him. Because I knew that was what the end was coming to. I mean, anybody who has any sort of knowledge can understand that there's consequences for every action, and if you continue those, that your life is just going to be the same. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So I changed everything. Everything. January, I set out to conquer the world and make everything unbleak. Unbleak.
What other expressions do you have?
Oh, okay, a couple of little, you like those. Let's see, when I've been asked before, like, well, what's your story? Okay, we'll tie that in. Well, it's lengthy. Some of it doesn't make sense. Some of it sounds so astronomical that some wouldn't even believe it. I don't even believe it. But at the end of the day, you can believe whatever you want. People still have to believe whatever they want. Can I use an expletive? I don't give two shits of a fuck. That's one that's kind of like more liberal side, like you say I don't care? No, I don't,
Say it again. How do you use any sense?
Somebody, passing a judgment upon me for any reason whatsoever. Well, I don't give two shits of a fuck. And I was going to put it on a shirt in Utah. I wanted to put it on a shirt. And Utah is very Mormon. And they wouldn't print it. Yeah. What's another one? And see, now my mind's drawing a blank. But
Let's go to something else. How did you stop using heroin?
I just stopped. I woke up one day. And I was watching, one of those Drugs Inc. TV shows or something like that. And there was this girl who was about my age, and she was talking about how she was looking at her mugshots from being in jail, incarcerated. And she said she saw her eyes dissipate to where there's this lost look that heroin addicts have. And a heroin addict can always tell another person's a heroin addict. You always can. It's the weirdest thing. But I was like, she said, and you realize at a certain point that your soul is gone. And I wasn't one of those addicts that I wanted to wake up and drink coffee in the morning and read the newspaper and not worry. I didn't want to lose and I ran to the bathroom and I just looked and I was like, I don't know what I'm looking for. And then the next day I walked up to my best friend, who's also my son's godmother, and I saw it.
So what?
That her soul was gone. She died 2 months later from a heroin overdose. And I told her that day, I said, Melanie, I got to walk away from you. I have to walk away. Because if we hang out, I was like, I'm not gone yet. I'm not gone yet. So I walked away and didn't speak to her or any of those same people. And 2 months later, she died. And, life's a funny thing. But at the end of the day, I'm glad that I'm not there anymore. I'm so glad. So glad. Go figure, this is the one thing that I'm crying about, No, my friend Melanie was, she was an amazing person. She lived through a bunch of really horrible, traumatic experiences.
What type of experiences? What was her name?
Melanie. Her name was Melanie. She grew up with her mom, and her mother was an amazing person. She had died when we were like 14 of cancer, and it was really rough on her because her mother's new husband made the final decision to pull the plug on her before her and her older brother even got to the hospital. Yeah, I mean, that'll scar a 14-year-old girl, and it did. And hey, we were already in high school, so experimenting with things is already in the cards. But she went a little overboard, and we discovered pharmaceuticals, good old pharmaceuticals, and things progress.
Could you pull out the earbud that's not the microphone?
Yeah. Is it?
Yeah, don't straight here.
All right.
Rub against each other. Put it back a little bit. It's coming.
Perfect.
So, can you tell me the story of your kidnapping?
Yeah.
So what happened? You said I was kidnapped?
It was a little over a year ago, before April. I was doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. Selling drugs. I had quit doing them, and I realized how much money I could make if I didn't do them. So I had met somebody, and my ex-husband and I, we were going to drive him up to Northern California, and just basically drive back. Well, my ex-husband also has a problem with methamphetamine, and the guy that we were with saw it as an in, if you will. So he was just giving it to him. After 6 days of not sleeping, he kind of flipped out a little, my ex-husband, and took my car and left me in Sacramento. You know, with the gentleman and his son, who is my age. And I knew his son, but his son was also a heroin addict, as was he. And we're basically left in this dilemma in Auburn. It's a horrible place. Auburn, California, horrible place. I will never return. And we were like, okay, well, we need, some sort of vehicle to get back down Southern California. And none of us had a credit card, so we decided U-Haul. We'll go U-Haul. Because you can rent a U-Haul without a credit card. So we rented a U-Haul, and we got just a few minutes outside of Auburn, and we were dropping his son off. And, I mean, this gentleman's probably a couple years younger than you, but not much. And it was just, I knew right away there was something. It was like, dude, why are we dropping you off? You're supposed to go down with us. What? And he kind of like, his eyes teared up a little, because we had been knowing each other for like 10 years. And he was like, just don't be stupid. You're not a stupid girl. He was like, don't be dumb. And he's all, call me as soon as you can. And I was like, the realization's hitting me. Like, basically, I got no choice in this. And the gentleman was career criminal, basically like 6 foot, built like a refrigerator. And I'm a tough girl, but I don't, And then he had a 38 on top of it, on his side. And he told me not to try anything stupid. And I said, sir, I'm not a stupid girl. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna risk my life for what? And we started driving, and it was about 2 days driving. 3 days was the last day between Auburn and Turlock, California. And we get to Turlock, and they were just shitty little rinky-dink motels, the cheapest that he could get. And we'd get there, and he'd just post up in front of the door, just sit there, stay up all night. And he was still, I think he was still trying to like have sex with me, but he was trying to be respectful. So he'd try and buy me things. Sure, you can buy me things. Go ahead. If it's going to make you happy, keep it coming. And I was raised with tact, and I was raised with tact. My father taught me tact and common sense. And I knew that his one weakness was that he was using heroin every single day in an IV, in a syringe. I'm sorry, when you wake up and you don't have any heroin after you've been using it IV for 10 years, that's going to be a weakness, and I'm going to take advantage of it. So I was taking a little bit of his every single day, take a little bit. And then the third day, woke up. No, I was just keeping it away from him, taking it away from him. Because I knew that the only way that I would escape him without one, directing some sort of authorities, which I was raised in the hood, alerting some sort of authorities. I was raised in the hood. I grew up in the hood. And I can speak eloquently because I was educated by white people, but I know rules, and rules are you don't go that way. As long as I am not dying, I didn't need, So I was taking it, and the third day I woke up and banging on the door, the manager of the little motel there, and he wakes up from against the door. He had finally fallen asleep, and he just, gets all rustled up, and he goes, just get everything, get in the fucking U-Haul, and he goes in the bathroom. He says, just get everything together and get in the U-Haul, and I was like, all right. And he goes in the bathroom to do his thing, and I knew that it was all gone. I knew it was all gone. And I go outside, and the manager, the first person in 4 days to ask me if I was okay, was an Indian man who didn't speak any English, and he just kind of looked at me, and a Punjabi from India. See, he looks at me, and he just, kind of asks if I was okay, and you hear him yell inside the hotel room, right? When he couldn't find it, and it was like this climactic building of tension, if you will. And I was like, I'll be fine, man. I'll be fine. Because I could have done the thing and say, no, I'm not fine. Please call the authorities. I have been kidnapped. No, that's not how it works. I was fine. I was fine. I didn't need to call the police, you know? I knew that I was going to be okay. And he comes out, gets in the U-Haul, and we're driving along, and he's just yelling and hollering and this and that, and we're sitting there.
Did he say that you took it?
No, he just thought he had done it all. He just thought he had done it all, because he knew that I didn't do it. Why would I need it? And I was just like, you know what? Something just triggered in me, and I was like, you're fucking stupid, dude. We don't even have cigarettes. And I called him stupid, which was, you know, something in his book you do not call him. And he grabbed the back of my neck like he was going to hit my head into the dashboard. And lo and behold, a CHP officer pulls right up next to us, looks over, and I smiled at him, and I looked over at the guy, and I was like, has the upper hand now? And I was like, do you want this? I know you're running from a lot of stuff, man. I was all, you gonna be civil or what? Because I still need to ride home. And he like kind of just smiled and played it off. You know, we pulled into an AM/PM, and it was the first time he left me alone in 4 days. I'm sorry, screw that, I'm out, you know? He starts walking towards the AM/PM, and he stops. And it's like maybe 20 feet total. He stops, and I'm just sitting there like, please, just keep going. And he keeps going. And he went in the store. I grabbed my bags, and I just started mobbing through the parking lot. Not one person asked if I was all right. Well, you could tell there was some sort of distress, you know? Until I walked around the corner, and a Hispanic man that spoke no English asked me if I was all right. That's basically it.
Wow, that's some story. But it's interesting how you didn't ask for help in a way when you could have, because you wanted to give him a chance.
I wasn't trying to give him a chance necessarily. I just knew that there was a different way that it was supposed to play out. I went off of a gut hunch because at the end of the day, I needed that. I was in Turlock, California with no money in my pocket, had a little bottle of whiskey, which I'm sorry, I don't drink, not a drinker, but I know that people on the road drink. And if I needed money or cigarettes or something, you could trade. I'm all about barters. And then it ended up being a month of me getting lost, basically in this area. I ended up in Atascadero, and I lived in Atascadero for a month until I broke my leg.
Is that a mental hospital?
No, Atascadero.
What is it?
Atascadero, the place. No, there's near Morro Bay, Rio Grande. Yeah, I was like, aren't we close to there? Like, most people have heard of it. And I stayed there until I broke my leg.
How'd you break your leg?
Longboarding.
Well, that's quite the story. Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you, man.
We'll put this on Everyone Has a Story.
Cool.
It's everyonehasastory.org. And it'll probably be there in a week or so.
Cool. I need to write that down.